Hello and welcome to the Hold the Line Sports Betting Podcast, where I am still recovering from this past weekend. I was going to go with the standard tagline, but let's be honest, no amount of work that we could have possibly done could have prepared us for what happened over this past Saturday. 7 top 25 teams were upset by opponents, 4 of which were in the top 10. And that's not including a Miami team who had to go miracle mode and come back from down 25 to beat the California Bears. Coin was lost. Hopes were dashed. Hearts were broken. But we have content. It gives us a lot to talk about, so we got to take the good with the bad. Before we get into that, I want to give a huge welcome back to the Professor Will Giles. He was
Back.
down in Puerto Rico for the last, 9, 10 days, something like that?
Something like that. We actually,
Will.
funny story. We were
Okay.
supposed to come home Sunday night. We bought the wrong tickets, so we bought the Atlanta to San Juan tickets instead of the San Juan to Atlanta. So I had to come back Monday morning at 8 a.m. and we were on standby.
So how'd it
That
go?
one-
Did you have fun?
Not one bit.
Okay, but you made money.
Yeah, I mean I got
All
the
right,
check.
well, I mean,
That's
Their
all
wallet's
it's
heavier.
about. Yeah,
That's
wallet's
good.
a little heavier.
we're happy to have you back. It wasn't the same without you.
Yeah, I remember
I tried to
listening
I
last
tried to
week.
bring you in as much as I could, like while we were recording, just to
I
make
was
sure that
listening
people still
last week.
realized.
And
Yeah.
you said, "Man, he needs to come back. This is too much. I'm talking."
No, I had your sheet, and like some of it was in like Arabic with like the U's were like V's. I don't know what kind of
Yeah.
formatting you used, but like I was on the struggle bus for that
was-
hour and a half.
It was a scan of what I wrote.
Okay.
Yeah, my handwriting's not that great.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump in. Before we go into our games of the week, the recap, Nate, give us your word of the day to describe this past Saturday. What do you got for us?
I think it's pretty simple for all of us. Disappointment.
Yeah,
Either
it was a
that
lot
or
of,
that.
I guess depending on who you were rooting for, a lot of teams that were expected to win, and I mean win easily in a lot of circumstances. It's like you get so many analysts, and they're like, just when you think you know college football, like weeks like this happen, and this was one of those weeks for sure.
Oh yeah.
Let's go ahead and dive in. Let's go recap of the games of the week. We'll start. Yep, we'll kick it over to Brandon. Just remind the people what we were betting on.
Yeah, I would say, back to Nate's statement of disappointing weekend, I would say me and Will are living pretty happily with how this weekend went, seeing that Georgia took a win and Florida somehow took a win as well. Surprising right there. But recap games of the week. We'll start it out with Washington versus Michigan. This was one of our upsets that Cam just talked about. Washington taking the W 27-17. Then we jumped over to Texas Tech, Arizona, where Texas Tech ended up winning that game 28-22. And then the biggest game from our games of the week was Texas A&M, Missouri. And this one, I think, shocked a lot of people. Texas A&M ended up winning 41-10. So those were our games of the week. I don't know about y'all. I could obviously have seen Michigan getting upset in that game, or at least playing a tight game as they did. Texas Tech, Arizona, same thing. Could see a tight game there. But Texas A&M, Missouri, what are we doing?
Yeah. So we'll get into. I want to do that one last. I think we're gonna have the most to talk about with that one. Let's start with Texas Tech and Arizona. Did this game take place at like 11 p.m. on Saturday?
Yeah.
Was that like?
Yeah, it was a
so
late one.
that first of all is just out of control. I feel bad for those guys. I mean, I guess it's the Western time zone, or is it Pacific?
Yeah, it was the same thing with the Miami game too in Cal. I mean, I fell asleep at 12:30, assuming Cal was going to take
Yeah.
a W and wake up to.
Right before it got good.
Yeah, I know, right?
So Texas Tech and Arizona. Nate, I'm going to go over to you. Give us some thoughts and feedback on this game, and also kind of what you had for it.
Yeah, so I didn't like y'all said, I didn't watch the game personally. I'm not gonna speak too much on it just because, like I said, a lot of disappointment went on. But I did have Arizona -6 for this, and I also had that for one of my plays in my conference picks. Fafita threw for 301 yards. It's not like they had a bad performance, but at the end of the day, I do not think their defense is what we thought it was, right? Um, their offense, they're still moving the ball a little bit. They're still doing what they need to do. Not quite where we thought, but I think their defense is the biggest disappointment.
I
So
got
for me, what I've got here, first of all, Taj Brooks, running
hmm
back,
Yep.
Yep.
have a day, kid.
Yeah.
He looks strong. I think that first half, I think Texas Tech, the momentum and like the pace of the game went exactly how Texas Tech wanted it to go. The game went exactly what they had drawn up in practice. And I think that also leads to the problem with Arizona. I like Fafita. I think he's a fine football player. But when Fafita has to throw 40 times, Arizona does not win the game. He's not the kind of guy. He should be a game manager. He's not the kind of guy that's going to throw for 350 and win the ball game. He might throw for that many yards, but the more he throws, the more mistakes he's going to make. They need to be able to establish the run and kind of play at their own pace, which is exactly what Texas Tech was able to do, and I think that was the difference in the game.
So McMillan had 161 yards in this game.
That's it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he didn't. Yeah, they didn't have to.
Yeah.
Will, what'd you have on this one?
I wrote one thing. Instead of third down efficiency, I wrote third down deficiency. Um,
That's clever.
Texas Tech went 2 for 11 on third down, and Arizona went 3 and 14. So combined 5 and 25 on third down. A lot of long drives, as we can see by Taj Brooks going 21 for 128, 3 touchdowns. So
Yep.
a lot of run game. It was a slower game than we expected. So yeah, didn't even. I mean, we scored 50 total points. Didn't even come close to my over 63 and a half.
You had the over.
So, oh yeah, it was horrible.
So this is one I had Texas Tech. So I was able to hit this one. This was one of the few wins I had over the weekend. Brandon, what'd you have here?
I think I had Texas Tech as well.
You did. I actually remember that.
Yeah. So, I mean, proud of the boys.
Nate, what'd you have? I
I
forgot.
had Arizona -6.
Oh, I love it. All right. Nice
Yeah,
job,
I'll be
Brandon.
honest.
Nice job, Brandon.
I thought they were gonna be able to hold that offense of Texas Tech, but they just gave up a little too much.
I just
Yeah,
think this Arizona team is could be pretty fraudulent. I
I'm
mean,
telling you, it is the pace of the game has to go their way. If they get behind the sticks, like if the game starts to get away from them, they're not in a position where they can come back. They're not a Miami, where they've got a guy that can will them back into the game. They don't have
Right.
that skill set.
I remember going back to week 3, they just looked horrible against Kansas State, too.
They have some
And I mean,
stinkers too, yeah. Fafita also threw 42 times in that game as well, which goes with if he throws 40 times, they're losing.
Yep.
Game number 2, Michigan at Washington. Kick it over to Will. Give us your thoughts on this one.
Michigan's offense is bad. Um,
So bad.
It's very one-dimensional, that's for sure.
Tuttle came in and the team looked better. I mean, they scored 17 straight once he came in. But the one thing with him is he's the turnover guy. He will have turnovers. It's too late. It was 17 all going into the fourth, and then 2 late turnovers is what sealed it for Washington. They were able to get 10 points off those turnovers, so make it 27-17. And the other thing is their leading rusher Mullings was held in check. He only had 14 for 49. So yeah, Donovan Edwards had a long touchdown run. That's kind of where most of his yards came from. Other than that, he wasn't that great as well. But obviously, a long touchdown run's gonna help your stats, and it's important to the game. But yeah, it was Origi was. I mean, I don't know how they beat USC with him. They're gonna run the ball. He threw
Yep.
the ball like 4 times. He went like 2 for 4 for like 10 yards.
Yeah, if you had just looked at the box score, you would have thought he played one quarter.
Yeah, it was so bad. But yeah, I had Michigan money line because I'm like, okay, they beat a better USC team with Orgy. They'll beat Washington. I was like, I'm getting a top 10 team against an unranked team at plus money. Yeah, I'm
Yep.
gonna take it. But yeah, Michigan looked bad.
I thought exactly the way that you thought. I think a part of me thought that I wrote this down. Michigan was a little overranked. I don't think they're quite a top 10 team. I would say they're closer to. I haven't looked at AP poll, but to me they're high teens, low 20s, somewhere between 19 and 22. Does anyone have the AP poll? What Michigan's at now after this game?
I'm pulling it up right now. Let me
Let me
see.
pull it up.
It's a race.
I think. Give me a second. They are 24 now.
24. That actually might be a little low. I think they're somewhere in that that low or high teen range.
Do you? How much? I guess. How much better do you think Illinois is than Michigan?
So like okay, if both of those two go JP poll, if both of those two teams played on a neutral site, who wins that game?
I'll be honest. Like I'm, and it's 23-24. It's a toss up, but I'll be honest. I'm about to put my money on Illinois. The way Michigan
I
played.
think so too.
I
I'm with
think
Nate.
it's what's concerning with Michigan is just how one-dimensional they can be. And if they face a team that handles the run game well, you have to be concerned about what do they do from here? Like how do they combat that if they can't run the ball effectively? Another team where it's like if they don't play at their pace, they struggle.
I'm a
It's because
big
they don't have
Illinois
Connor Stallion.
believer, but I still think Michigan wins that game.
I would like to think so, but I can see why it would be a struggle.
I mean, yeah, I think right now I'd have Michigan at 22, because I think they're better than Illinois, and then they're as much as they are so much fun to watch. I have them better than Pitt.
They are
Because
better than Pitt.
Fun to
better
watch
than Pitt.
and good is a different thing.
Hold up. Do you think they're better than Missouri?
No,
I don't either.
I don't
Missouri's
know.
Missouri's at 21. Do you think
I
they're
think
better
they're
than
ranked
Missouri?
right where they're supposed to be now. I think Missouri is 21. I think that's right where they're
I
supposed
think
to be.
Missouri's 21 and Michigan's 22.
That makes sense.
A tough slate for Michigan too. I mean, they got to play Illinois, then they got to play Oregon, then they obviously got to play at Ohio State. I mean, we could see a easily 5-6 loss Michigan team this
Yeah,
season.
they've got a gauntlet coming up, which is why, and that's why I went with Michigan in this game, and I was like, because they need this one, like this, they've got to have this one because it doesn't get easier for them. So the fact that they didn't, execute on this one really is concerning about like their next 3 games.
First road game for them too, right?
True
This
one.
year. Yeah. Then they got to go on the road again this next week. So
Anything else in this one before we move on? I know I missed it. Will missed it too because we both had Michigan. Did you guys have Michigan?
I had Michigan as well. Yep.
Which I will say this: I had Michigan also, and like you said, you can't pass them up at plus money.
No.
So I will say maybe we are downplaying this Washington team just a little bit. A lot of people, I'm sure, have been paying attention to Will Rogers, but right now he's completing 74% of passes, and he's got over 1,600 pass yards.
I was about to say you guys know who the quarterback is, right, and where he came from. I mean,
More
Yeah.
to come on Washington in
Yeah.
the episode today.
All right, let's go. Game number 3. This is Missouri at Texas A&M. Brandon, I've got a lot of thoughts here, but Brandon, go ahead. You start us off, and then I'll pick up.
No, actually, I mean, I think as we kind of discussed previous episode when we were previewing this game, we both thought, Missouri's overrated for sure. And surprisingly enough, Texas A&M even ran out Connor Weigman this game. No more so Reed, even though he's still, after this game, leading the team in passing yards and stuff like that. But, I mean, Missouri just couldn't stop the run. Le'Veon Moss had an Ashton Jeanty game. Dude had 12 carries, 138 yards, 3 touchdowns. One of those runs was a 75-yard run. I mean, I know Texas A&M's a tough place to play, but when you're going into the season as a top 10 team, Missouri was 9 going into this game. To get blown out by 31 points that's upsetting. Yeah. And I think that just goes down to, Texas A&M, they had 6 sacks, 8 tackles for a loss to Missouri's 1 sack. So I think as far as the run game and pass defense is going for Missouri, I don't know if they're all that when it comes to SEC play.
And that's what, and we talked about it, and I said I was worried for like 2 weeks now. I said I've been worried about this team. Back even when they played Boston College, and I was like, Boston College is going to cover against
Yeah.
these guys, and I figured out that Boston College actually isn't that good either this past weekend. So like, really, what does that say about Missouri?
Right.
Brady Cook went 13 of 31 passing for 186 yards. He looked like Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Deshaun, Nate, Deshaun.
They
Deshaun.
show.
Well, it's funny. It's funny you bring it. They should have lost to Boston College, and they should have lost to Vanderbilt. This could very easily be a 2-3 Missouri team right now, very easily. And I mean, they got an easy matchup against Massachusetts coming, but then they kind of start their gauntlet of the SEC schedule with Auburn, Alabama, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and not to mention these guys coming into the season had one of the easiest strength of schedules in the entire NCAA. So it was handed to them on a silver platter, and for them to come out and get blown out of the water in this game, not looking very good for the Missouri Tigers.
I think they're screwing up again by playing a team like Massachusetts this week. After a bad loss like that, you're going to slow the game back down and play a weaker opponent. It's going to look great for your record, but that game is not going to prepare you for what you face next. I think they're shooting themselves in the foot with their strength of schedule right now.
I do too, and it's like I talked about it last episode. Like you said, Lane Kiffin mentioned it, how their opponents just don't prepare them at all, and it was very, very obvious that they were not prepared for this game. They weren't prepared for the Vanderbilt game either, or the Boston College game. So
They were just fortunate.
yeah, I mean, we'll see them. They got to go to Alabama. They got to go to South Carolina. Two teams with outstanding defensive lines, and really good run game as well. So not looking good for the boys in Missouri.
So, quick question on that. Looking at last year's success from Mizzou, do y'all think they have that success without Schrader?
I mean, I think they still have success. He's a really, really good back, but I just don't. The vibe feels. It seriously feels like they are not prepared.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
the pace of play, just like Michigan or Arizona, honestly.
their leading rusher had 10 carries for 30 yards.
Yeah, I just think it's the offensive line. I mean,
Brady
they can't.
Cook is not playing how he did last year. I think that's the
Right.
biggest thing. He's not playing anywhere near. I mean, like, he won them some games last year. I can't remember. Like the Florida game. He won them that game because it was like 4th and 17, and then he makes a play and wins them that game.
Yep.
And then I also wrote in my notes, Le'Veon Moss. His last name is now Bell because he's Le'Veon Bell.
Reincarnated.
So yeah, basically Missouri lost the trenches every single time. Like Brandon said, A&M had 6 sacks, and then A&M as a team, their rushing was 36 for 236 and 5 touchdowns.
Now, on the flip side, see a Texas A&M team that could be a little bit frisky when it comes down to the last couple games of the year, because they got bye week this week, rest up, get healthy. Then they play Mississippi State, which is a free win. Then they play LSU at home, which LSU has proven to not be, of the elite category this year. Then they got to go to South Carolina, which I could see them winning. And then after that, it's New Mexico State, Auburn, and then Texas. So I could very easily see this Texas A&M team being a little frisky, might have 2 losses at the end of the year, and could make some noise. Could be on the a team that's on the fringe of a playoff spot if they play well down the stretch.
I was looking at some storylines for this upcoming week, and then I also looked some going in the future, and a lot of signs are pointing to. I mean, Texas has obviously a tough schedule coming up. But
Right.
all signs are pointing to a 10-1 and 11-0 Texas playing in Week 12. That'd be a game. If
Yeah.
That would
Texas
be a
beats
game.
Georgia, and that's their main test, obviously. But even 10-1 Texas A&M versus 10-1 Texas going into the Week 12, which would probably be whoever wins that game goes to the SEC championship.
That's at Texas A&M too, with
Yep.
potential Arch Manning rookie quarterback, with a hyped up fan base. If it's
Quinn's
that
coming
much
back
riding
this
on the
week.
line,
And this is
especially
And this is the first time this rivalry has been played since A&M has come to the SEC.
True.
Yeah.
And I mean, if Weekman plays like he did this past week, I mean, he could be a guy. I know we talked earlier, a couple weeks ago, about Texas A&M not having many weapons. But I mean, if dude keeps delivering the ball and they have a steady run game, they're going to be a tough offense to compete against for sure for any defense.
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely. All right, so for games of the week, you guys got anything else on this one before we move on? All right, cool.
Nothing except that I missed it.
Games of the week, I went 2-1. I had Texas A&M winning this game, so I went 2-1 on my games of the week. Nate, how'd you do?
1-2.
1-2. Brandon,
I went 2-1 as well. So I think me and you are still tied.
dope. Will, tell me you did bad.
0-3. Yeah.
Oh yes,
Nice.
he left the door open and we walked in.
It was a bad week. I think I blame it on Puerto Rico. This is the first bad week I've
Fair.
had all year, and it's the 1 week I'm not in Georgia. So,
Puerto Rican curse.
yeah,
No, that's it's travel. You know, you see how these teams do when they have to travel a long ways. You see how these podcasters
Yeah.
do when they have to travel a long
I
ways.
really have a stat. Big Ten teams are 1-7 when they have to travel 2 or more time zones.
And Will Giles is 0-3.
Yeah, I'm 0-3, even though we're in the same time zone. But that's besides the point.
All right, let's move on to the toilet bowl, gentlemen.
gives
I
a
was
hoot?
I was tracking this one, and we all hit in our own way. I thought that was so funny. But Jacksonville State absolutely smoked KSU, Kennesaw State University. For those of you who aren't familiar, we're Georgia boys, so we're very familiar with KSU. Jacksonville State won 63-24. Listen here, all right. Jacksonville State, this is going to sound made up. 384 rushing yards and 8 rushing touchdowns in one game. Just like
Let's
a
go.
ridiculous stat. Like I just had to lead with that because after that, like nothing else matters. I know I had JSU covering. I think Nate, you did as well.
I had KSU over 16.5.
Oh, that's right. You had over the KSU's points, which also hit. I think it was me and Brandon then that had the JSU cover. Will, I know you had JSU points.
Yes, both defenses sucked because 24 points to KSU was something. That's
True.
That's bad. Yeah, I was looking at. Yeah, I literally have the same thing: 53 for 384 and 8 touchdowns. Tyler Huff, their quarterback, 15 for 176 and 3 touchdowns. Good for an 11.7 average per carry.
Jesus.
The
It's
running
just
back
wild.
was 24 for 134 and 4 touchdowns. KSU's run game surprisingly wasn't horrible. That is their bread and butter. Because my next note is Davis Bryson is a worse quarterback than DJ Ukulele. And that's hard to do.
Yeah, it's tough to do that.
That is hard to do.
So it's like there's 134 teams. DJU is 133. Davis Bryson is 134. And
How
this is
about
coming
that?
This is coming from a KSU alum. We suck.
And that's so yeah. So I mean, for the fans out there listening, we are from Georgia. We're local here, so we have what you call in this business world an edge. So we're gonna know everything there is to know about KSU football because no one else will.
I got
So if
some
you want to
sources on
lock on
KSU.
KSU football, we got you.
The lock is the over points on the other team.
Yeah, whoever the other team is.
Every time.
Because
Yeah,
not
it's
only is our
automatic.
defense not great, but also our offense is so bad that we're going to go 3 and out and give the ball back to the other team
Yep,
so
they got
much.
tons of time. Yeah, do you have how many plays they had compared to how many plays KSU had?
I did not.
I
but
think they at least doubled the amount of.
It's probably pretty close. Let me check it real quick. Let's see. Why I pulled up the freaking Houston TCU game.
Nate, do you have anything else in this game?
No, I was trying to look for this, what you just asked him for. I'm just looking up and down the play-by-play, and all I see is interception, turnover, negative play, punt.
Yeah.
Touchdown JSU. Fumble.
I mean, they scored 24 or so.
It was, let's see, so Jacksonville State ran 78 plays,
It's already crazy.
and KSU ran 61.
Oh,
So it's not-
so they hung with them.
So they
Dude,
hung
it
with them
was
a little bit.
it was a touchdown game. I mean, it was a one possession game at halftime.
Yeah, it was.
It actually was.
Yeah.
Now
It was
that I
17,
remember
And
that
then
21.
JSU scored 42 in the second half. Or sorry, Jack State scored 42 in the second half.
Yes, they
to
did.
KSU 7.
Yeah.
All right, so we all got that one. Toilet bowl made. I think that was my first toilet bowl win, actually. So I'm 1-2 in the toilet bowl now.
2-1 overall.
2-1.
Nah, I was no good. I got an easy one. Anything else on this one? I don't think we need to spend too much time on it. All right, let's go individual plays. We'll go same order as we've been doing before. We'll start with Nate. We'll go to Will and not Cam because Will is actually here to do his plays this time. And then we'll go to me, and then we'll go to Brandon. So go ahead and start us off, Nate.
Yeah, so we've already done one, Arizona versus Texas Tech. I had Arizona -6, missed that one. So I went 1 for 3 overall. UCF, or I had UCF over Florida. I had their money line. I expected UCF's offense to kind of outmatch Florida's defense because we know how bad they've been performing this year. And I'll get into this a little bit later with the UCF because I have them in a future game, but their offense is not producing like it was. It's not producing.
Represent.
They went from looking like one of the best teams in the Big 12 to now very mediocre in the last few weeks. So I did lose that one. I did hit my plus money, which was West Virginia over Oklahoma State. The only thing I got on this game is I still am not convinced West Virginia is a good team. I think Oklahoma State's that bad. Like, they are a very bad football team right now.
Got like a 28-year-old quarterback.
Yeah, and I will say, like, West Virginia did get their offense going pretty well in this game. Oklahoma State couldn't seem to stop them, but, dude, like you said, Oklahoma State's offense is bad. I mean, very bad. Ollie Gordon's just, he's not what we thought he was going to be this year.
You only had 2?
Arizona, Texas Tech.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
right. I remember that.
That's upsetting with Ollie Gordon. He was like
He was hyped
Heisman
up.
candidate.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
hyped up for sure.
Because Oklahoma State
Then he
was
then
supposed
he
to be
then he got a
playoff
DUI and
football.
then
The off the field troubles.
Horrible.
don't drink and drive, kids.
Let me see real quick if I can find what he did in that game. Let's see.
He was supposed to have a year that Ashton Genty's having.
I don't know. I don't know about that. No one's
Maybe
having
not
that
that
year.
good.
No one's having that year.
He was supposed to have like at least average like 120 a game.
This is the stats for that game. Bowman went 10 for 19, 116 yards, 2 interceptions. Ollie Gordon went 13 carries for 50 yards. But this is what gets me, okay? I said West Virginia's offense did pretty well in this game. Their quarterback was 9 for 15 for 159 yards.
Yeah, that's a nothing. Yeah.
And then their running back only had 158. But at one point, this game was 31-7, you know.
Yeah. All right. So what'd you go?
I went 1 for 3.
All right. So 1 and 2. You're new in the Big 12. So this is only your second week, so I expect you to only improve from here.
Well, I've had 2
True.
pretty decent weeks, so it was,
You were due.
yeah.
Will, let's go to you for Big 10.
Yeah, first week I didn't go above 500. I've gone either
Good.
2-1
Suffer.
or 3-2 above every week. It's the Puerto Rico curse. So I went 1-1-1 as a whole. So not below 500 though.
Right at 500, right?
Yep. So 500 or above in every week. First one, Rutgers +7 over Nebraska. I thought Rutgers could win this game outright, and they definitely had chances to. The weather
I tailed you
girl-
on this one, by the way. I love that pick.
Yeah, the weather girl kind of sold. It was pretty windy.
Per usual.
Yeah.
But I mean, also
always.
the wind kind of helps Rutgers because they're a very run-first team. They kind of don't really throw the ball like Nebraska does, even though they don't really as well. But what's crazy is Rutgers had 70 rushing yards on their first 2 possessions, so pretty good. They finished with 78. Um, yeah, yeah, it's pretty bad. Um, it was turnovers and red zone stops that won the game for Nebraska. Rutgers was in the red zone twice, didn't even get a score out of it. Um, and then also had multiple. I think Callie McManus threw 2 picks as well. So it was kind of the defense won the game for Nebraska because Riola was not very good today. Yeah, pretty boring game, but 14-7, got a little push out of it, so didn't lose coin. Next one, Penn State minus 28.5 over UCLA. I remember in my notes last week, I said Ethan Garbers his ass. The only reason UCLA did not or covered is because Ethan Garbers didn't play. So, and also very long drives from Penn State. They took up a lot of clock when driving. Nick Singleton also didn't play, the starting running back for Penn State. He literally was on track to play, warmed up and everything, ruled out with an illness like an hour before. I'm like, are you kidding me? So yeah, it was really like it wouldn't have mattered. But the game, why the reason the game looked so close, 27-11, is because UCLA scored a garbage time touchdown to make it from 3-11. So
yeah,
the game was already over. And then so that play missed. The one that did hit, Indiana is something this year. They are good. 6-0 for the first time since, let me see, I think it was 1967. So yeah, they're cooking this year. Kurt Signetti's got the boys playing. They won 41-24. I had them minus 13.5 over Northwestern. Their offense is so good. It was close in the fourth, but then pulled away. Curtis Rourke, former MAC Player of the Year, shout out. 380, 25 of 33, and 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. So good there. The one thing is Indiana's defense does scare me. Allowing 24 points to Northwestern, it's not that great.
yeah, no.
Yeah, it wasn't that great, but I think they got their win. They scored 41. I think they've only not scored 40 plus in one game. Their offense is legit this year. Curtis Rourke has come from the MAC and lit it up there so far. Competition hasn't been great, but Indiana's something for real this year. I could see them going 9-3 this year. But yeah,
I think the schedule gets harder though.
It does get tougher, but I can definitely see them. I could see them getting some wins. They're already 6-0. They got to go 3-3 in their last 6.
Yeah, you just got to be average the rest of the way to have a really good year.
Yeah. So yeah, I went 1-1-1 this year, bringing my total to 12-7-1.
All right, I guess I'll go. We fell back off the wagon, fellas. We're 0-3. It could not have. Overall, I actually was like fine. Like I was a shade under 500, but the ones that I picked to talk about all were just smoked horribly. I'm going to start with Boston College at Virginia. I said it last week. I said it the week before. I'm going to say it again probably later in this episode. Virginia is not a good football team. They're not. Okay? They have this voodoo magic thing that they do against opposing quarterbacks and opposing teams that allows them to make that other team make mistakes that will cost them the game. I had Boston College winning this. They were plus money, and I'm like, why on earth are they plus money? Well, because they lost the game. So I guess the line makers knew what they were talking about. They were up 14-6 at halftime. Virginia could do absolutely nothing with the ball. Like no sustained drives, a lot of 3-and-outs. Calandria is high. Like he just runs around like he's on speed and just throws the ball willy-nilly. He's like PJ Walker playing the quarterback position. Just a bunch of nonsense going. It's a circus.
PJ had that one throw against Atlanta.
And that's all it takes. And you know what happened? Calandria had one throw. He had one 44-yard dot to his number one receiver that gave them the lead. And that was the only good throw he made the entire day. But like Castellanos came back for Boston College, who I thought was a great quarterback until Saturday. I no longer think he's a good quarterback. So ridiculous interceptions, two like egregious interceptions, horrible throws, bad decision making. He had this one play where he rolled out left and literally ran face first into the defensive lineman and gave him the football. And they returned it for a touchdown for a scoop and score. And that's the other way.
Here, you take it.
Just horrible. They were winning. The first half was like, this is exactly what I thought was going to happen. And I don't know what changed in the second half because it's not like Virginia made any sort of adjustments. The only points they scored were off of Boston College scored no more points, 0 more points. They ended with 14. And then Virginia has the scoop and score and then one more touchdown on that dime that Calandria threw, his only good throw of the game. They did nothing good. They did not play a good football game. Boston College just played worse in the second half. So I lost that one. And as you can tell, I sound a little upset maybe because I am. Because now all the memories are coming back. So I'm reliving it all over again. Second game is Pitt at UNC. I'm like not even mad about this because you guys know I've been a Pitt fan for like the entire season. Like I love this team. They're so much fun to watch. The shoe is going to drop at some point. Like it's not going to continue like this. Their schedule has been super easy. I thought UNC would come out with some fire and it would be that day where Pitt would get their first loss. It was not. North Carolina, the University of, cannot stop a single team from doing what they want with the football. If the team is good at throwing, UNC will allow them to throw. If the team is good at running, UNC will allow them to run. So like whatever their strength is, UNC will accommodate that and allow them to score no less than 30 points in any game that they play in. They have the worst defense in the Atlantic Coast Conference. It is not close. It's a tough team to watch. Holstein looked good, though, for Pitt. It was another 380-yard day for him, 3 more touchdowns. He looks like the real deal. What I will say about Pitt is they have not faced a good defense yet, and they face their first good defense this coming Saturday, and we will talk about that. This is a little preview. We will talk about that shortly. Last one was Wake at NC State. Did you guys watch this game?
Did not.
Okay.
I saw Grayson McCall, which sucked.
That was okay. So you don't need to know about anything else. This dude McCall took maybe the worst hit I've ever seen in my life. I thought he died on the field.
It's bad.
He comes through, is like through the middle. He gets knocked by one dude, is like airborne. His helmet comes off, and he gets smoked in the head with his helmet off by another dude before he hits the ground. I literally, like immediately, you see the team, and like everyone is like, you got to get out here because this is bad. And he's fine. I think he's fine. He got released from the hospital like later that day, and all of his tests came back clean. He's definitely concussed, but he is okay. He left the game in like I think it was either the end of the first quarter or like beginning of the second quarter, somewhere in there. So their true freshman came back in, C.J. Bailey, and it was actually a very competitive game. I had NC State -4.5, I figured it was probably going to be close. And it was. They were up by 10, 30-20, with 7 minutes left in the game, and just gave up the lead, and then lost the game at the end. Just like all of the teams that I picked to win did. I think all of them had the lead at one point, and then they all lost the lead by the end of the game. Wake is still not good. Backmeyer, I love him as a quarterback. I think he's fun to watch, but he's not a very good quarterback. He looks like he's like scared when he plays, and so he makes a ton of mistakes. He doesn't play good football. A lot of like egregious errors, like dumb errors, not like you're trying to fit a window, just like stuff where it looks like he panics. So the second they play like a good team that's better than NC State, he will get exposed. NC State has already been exposed. They're a fraudulent team. The fact that they were ever ranked is asinine. They shouldn't have been. So that was my weekend. 0-3, just an absolute train wreck. Could not have been any worse, but we're ready to recover. Brandon, over to you for the SEC.
Yeah, the SEC is chaos. Best way to put it.
That should have been your word, Nate. Chaos.
Yeah, chaos. That is what has been ensuing over here in the SEC corner for 2 weeks now. We're just going to go ahead and, rip the Band-Aid off like we did last week. Another 0-3 week.
Back-to-back 0-3s.
Now, I have explanation to back up these picks, but we're just going to go ahead and start. We'll start with the Georgia Bulldogs, who, shout out to Georgia Bulldogs, got back into winning ways this weekend after a tough loss the week before. Pretty handily took it to Auburn, but shout out Peyton Thorne. No picks this game. Shout out. So, I mean, we're getting better over there, but we had Georgia. The only value in this game really was, the Georgia -7 first quarter, and I thought it had push potential. Sucks Auburn got a field goal, so making the first quarter total 7-3. We should have took the half total because I think it was 14-3, and I think the line was 10.5. But Georgia's offense did look pretty good. They scored every single quarter. It should have been 31-6, which would have made it look even more dominant. But Auburn sneaks a touchdown in the third quarter. I do like Carson Beck going 23 for 29, 240, 2 touchdowns, no picks. Love to see that. Trevor Etienne finally had a 2-touchdown game, 88 yards on the ground. And I mean, defense looked suffocating, just like a Georgia defense should. Sucks they gave up a touchdown. And it was also a rushing touchdown, which sucks even more because usually Georgia doesn't do that, except when they're playing the fastest quarterback in the world. But we're going to move ahead. We'll go to Ole Miss versus South Carolina now. This was a game that I was riding high on South Carolina for a little bit, thought they could be a season heartbreak team to play. Ole Miss came into South Carolina and said, no, we're not having none of that. Jackson Dart was a little shaky. Still had 285 in the air, but he only went 14 for 27. Their offense did look pretty explosive, though. I mean, they could do whatever they wanted. They scored in every quarter but the fourth quarter because they didn't have to, because this South Carolina offense might be down there with Mississippi State. Sellers, he had 2 turnovers, 1 fumble, 1 pick. The interception was in the end zone. I mean, I don't know what he was thinking. Dude ran an out route pretty much, and he threw it into double coverage. Can't have those picks in the end zone. And the other upsetting thing is he only had 55 yards on the ground. Like, when you're a two-way guy and you only have 162 and 55, that's just not going to cut it, especially when you have 0 touchdowns on the ground and just couldn't get the ball moving at all. So we had South Carolina plus 10.5. I thought they were going to play a more tight-fought game since that game was a home game. But I think we're starting to see what the Ole Miss Rebels can be now that, I guess, under Lane Kiffin's standards, that they are prepared. And I think them losing to Kentucky was almost good for them because they understand that they can be beaten. So, you got to run a tight ship, and that leads me to my third pick, which I think I was on the losing side of a bet that 99.9% of America was on.
You were.
That's where I took Alabama minus 21 points against Vanderbilt.
Hey, they're
Sounds silly now.
again this weekend.
So I just want to say, Diego Pavia, I'll run through a wall for that man.
Yeah,
I think he's my favorite quarterback, favorite player for the year now. And I mean, even I think Nick Saban even said this 2 weeks ago. Vanderbilt is not to be slept on this year. I mean, they got a lot of heart coming out of that team. And even though their record's not going to be the best at the end of the season, I mean, they beat Virginia Tech. Tough loss against Georgia State. They should have beat Missouri, and they beat Alabama. This is a team that could, you take away the Georgia State loss, and we'll keep one of the. They could be 4-1 right now with beating Alabama.
People are wondering if Georgia State is the best team in the country.
That is true. I did
valid.
see that.
That's valid.
I also saw it was Vanderbilt beat Alabama, Alabama beat Georgia, so and so, but Georgia State beat Vanderbilt and Georgia Tech beat Georgia State, so therefore Georgia Tech's better than Georgia.
Maybe.
So I just, I want to go ahead and pass this off because I just want to know where our tried and true Alabama fan, Coach Beans, I want to know where your head's at right now facing this loss.
Oh, me. Okay. I'll be honest. I think, and y'all have the receipts. In the middle of the game, I text y'all and I said, "I hope we lose this game, dude." and and I'll be honest. Like, it hurts me to say this. I think this might have been the best thing that could happen to us. I really do. I'll be honest. Winning that game does nothing for us at this point. They're still going to be cocky going forward. They're going to think they're best since they beat Georgia, but they got humbled, right? Now, I think me and Brandon, we talked about this, if I'm not mistaken, over the weekend at the games. If you could tell me Alabama's going to score 35, you will pick them every single game, right?
Absolutely.
Bama's averaging almost 40 a game on the offense. People were talking about Bama's offense wasn't that great. Bama's offense wasn't this in that game. No, it wasn't the best. But Jalen Milroe still went 18-24 with 310 yards. Now, what Bama did not have in that game was a rush attack. So our leading rusher was Jam Miller, and he only had 45 yards on 5 carries.
It's very interesting, too, because Jalen Milroe, being, the elite runner that he is as well, had 7 carries for 10 yards.
So, real quick on that, and this isn't an excuse. I'm just asking if y'all watched the game. Did y'all see how bad that turf was? On guys trying to make, even for Vanderbilt, not just us, like just guys trying to make cuts on running the ball on the runs.
Talked about some people were trying to change their cleats out.
Yeah, dude, it was bad, but that's not an excuse. I was just seeing if y'all saw that. Mm-hmm. But
also interesting stat: Alabama had 0 sacks in the game.
Dude, I'm about to get to that part.
But 3 down linemen most of the game, didn't you?
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Our adjustment at halftime, we beat Vanderbilt if we come out with a stacked box. If we make Pavia throw the ball, we win that game. But for some reason,
like Pavia had 20 carries. It's almost like
a
flipped stat. Like usually Pavia is going to have.
Like.
Pavia
exactly.
had 20 passing attempts and 20 carries. But dude, and the biggest thing that gets me, and this kind of shows you how the game went, is if I'm not mistaken, Vanderbilt had right at 42 minutes of possession. Bama had only 17, and they scored 35. So what that comes down to is we had to press. We couldn't run the ball. We were constantly in throwing situations. Our defense could not stay off the field.
Here's the that's the difference between the new era Alabama we're seeing and the Saban era of Alabama we're seeing. Only 21 carries for an Alabama offense is unheard of. I mean, that's one of the biggest ways you don't allow the other team to score points is you don't let their offense on the field.
But when you get down early, this is what happens.
Right. And I don't know how you come out flat against a team that you obviously know is a little bit frisky this year. They're not the same old Vanderbilt. And I don't know how you just let up, 23 points in the first half of a football game to, coming off the biggest game of the year that you just won and you just get ranked number 1. To me, I agree with the people saying this would not have happened under Saban.
He almost lost to South Florida.
I mean, almost, right? But now we're looking at a team that did lose to an unranked team when they're the number 1 team in the country.
Now, if we look at it as in, I think if the team came out this flat, and I'm going to support DeBoer. I love the guy. If Bama comes out this flat under Saban as they did in DeBoer, I still think they lose this game. At the end of the day, Nick Saban would have made the halftime defensive adjustment, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. But
I think the game plan under Saban defensively is completely different to where Vanderbilt might only score 14, not 40.
Yeah. And I don't know. I could go on and on about this game, but at the end of the day, I still think it's the best for us that this did happen when it did. Kind of get a get-back game against South Carolina. But if our defense doesn't improve, we're going to be in some trouble. But I think they're going to learn from it. Sellers runs the ball a lot with South Carolina, so I really hope we get that box stacked and really stop the run this weekend.
It's simple. Your 2 worst games this year are USF and Vandy.
Heavy
What's
rush
the
attacks.
yeah? What's the same thing with both of them? You had 3 down linemen half the
Yes.
time.
Well, dude, people were worried about our passing defense, and our passing defense is actually like we got 2 freshman corners. Like they're not. Our passing defense is pretty good. I never thought our rush defense would be what I'm on here talking about right now.
Especially when you probably have the number 1 linebacker in the country.
It doesn't matter how good your pass defense is if you don't get pressure on the quarterback. Someone is going to come open eventually.
Dude,
Eventually.
we got 3 of the top D linemen in the country, and we cannot get pressure on the guy. We've got to have another down guy to give that offensive line somebody else to worry about. We got to blitz more. Dude,
2 people.
I don't care if we go 3 down. You've got to send your linebackers. You've got to do something to get more pressure up the middle.
Even if you just mix it in, like you got to show it. You have to show
Mm-hmm.
that. Third downs, like whatever situation, like you have to be situational with that, and you have to use it. You have to show that you have it.
I knew this game was over as soon as Pavia made the God, I'm blanking on his name. He hadn't played in a few weeks. Dude, I'm so blanking right now. Texas QB. God, I'm an idiot.
Quinn Ewers?
Ewers, yeah, sorry. That reminded me so much of that Quinn Ewers throw when he was off his back foot at the end of the game and just threw it over the guy's shoulder and he fingertipped it. Do y'all remember that?
Yeah.
That's the same thing Pavia did on that last touchdown, or one of the last touchdowns. He was going down with a sack, just threw it up in the air. Guy caught it.
It was a dime, though.
I can't get enough of that guy. I cannot get enough of him. He is so much fun to watch, dude.
I love Vandy, but I guarantee you, I would not be shocked if they lose this next game because they are so high after beating Bama.
Yeah, true.
Guys, y'all know there's people calling for DeBoer to be fired already?
That is a little crazy, but
yeah, it's wild.
Saban lost to Louisiana
They beat
Monterey
Georgia
his first year.
Yeah, we're acting like he didn't just beat the
beat Georgia.
the team that was number 2 in the country or something.
I think a team every year, and Vanderbilt's a little bit out there, but a team every year is going to have a game where you're like, what? Like, what happened?
Yeah, there's hardly any teams just go undefeated. The best teams, most of the time, most of them at least they have 1 loss.
I mean,
there's a loss to somebody.
Look at Florida, right? There's been teams like people consider the 06 or 08 teams. Sometimes they consider those of the top 5 greatest teams of all time. Florida has never had an undefeated season.
Yeah.
It's just so hard to do.
It is so hard to win every single game week in and week out. It's so hard to do that.
All you
got
to do if you're Alabama is make it to Atlanta 11-1, and you're in.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like you come out flat against anybody, and this year it just so happened to be Vanderbilt with a decent team, right? If you come out flat against anybody, you're going to struggle. I mean, Georgia came out flat against Auburn at the beginning of this past weekend, and
it came out flat against Kentucky and almost paid for it.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's SEC, dude. You can sit here, and the people of the Big Ten can be like, man, you aren't going to have an undefeated team at the end of the year, blah, blah, blah. I'm telling you, man, the SEC is hard to come out and play 100% every week.
So, quick interesting stat. I believe this is the first year in the last 10 years, and I know there's still a lot of season left to play. This is the first year in the last 10 years at Alabama they've averaged 20 or more points allowed per game.
I don't know if you have the stat pulled up, but I'm willing to bet a lot of those are rushing.
Probably.
Don't know, but under Saban, it was usually averaged around 12 to 14 points per game allowed.
Dude, well, this is my thing,
now it's
too.
up to close to 3 touchdowns.
So I sat here and I trashed Alabama's defense for the last 5 minutes, okay? So let's just take it back a step on the defensive side, and let's say if they had their first and second down defense is very good. Like, very good. Vandy was only averaging a few yards of play on first, second down. Third down defense, if I'm not mistaken, Vandy went like almost 90%.
Sounds like Florida.
It was insane. And I know there was one drive where Ryan Williams and I think Brown was on the field at the same time. So on a punt, 2 number 2s on the field. Well, that's a penalty. All right. Later on in that drive, there was I think I told Brandon about this. There was a play where Russaw hit Pavia like just bumped his face mask, rushing the passer, automatic first down. So that's 2 penalties on one drive that led to a score. I mean, it's just third down defense. That's all it is.
I mean, another quick thing to bring up is just I mean, I don't know how this is going to go the rest of the season, but seeing Alabama players show their tail a little bit at the end of the game is a little unheard of.
The boy was
I
flustered.
mean,
Oh yeah.
I know there's a lot of winning that's done at Alabama, but
He kicked the football.
99% of, yeah,
That was so
99% of
funny.
the time those guys are like robots.
So
and they show up, they do their job, and they leave.
my quick take.
And to see that is kind of like, and especially when you got some guys on the team like Ryan Williams, who's 17 years old, who's supposed to be the guy, one of their guys, and to see Malachi Moore doing that stuff as a veteran guy, that could be a little troublesome.
So my quick take on that, just a few seconds, is I do not agree with the whole kicking the football part of it, or
I thought
shoving
that was the
Poppy's
best
head.
part.
No, I'm saying like I do not agree with that. Now, with how upset he was, like when he was beating his helmet, yelling, I can understand that. Like that is very understandable. He's been there 5 years. He never would have thought his last season it could have come down to a loss to Vanderbilt, right? I think that part is justified. Other part where he was kicking the football, totally uncalled for. I
He
do
threw
think,
the flag on himself.
Yeah.
He kicked it and he went.
I do think though a suspension is not as necessary as people are talking. Because we don't know what they did behind the scenes. Like he said, they handled it in the facility. We don't know, right?
Yeah.
But I will say the best report I've seen is players have come out and said it. There's been some guys that write for articles around Alabama football come out and said it. They said DeBoer's whole demeanor around the whole program has changed this week. Like he's still obviously a player's coach, but he is a lot more like buckled up. Like so, I'm ready to see how that translates into Saturday.
It'll be interesting. But they got South Carolina.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Either they're going to be flat, or I feel really bad for South Carolina.
No, I actually have confidence in Alabama
It's probably
moving
the second
forward
one.
into South Carolina, but it does worry me a little bit about their matchups against Tennessee and LSU down the stretch, both being away games.
Tennessee,
This
we can
was-
actually talk a little bit about later because that could be a little bit different than we thought from the beginning.
Why don't we, since we spent so much time on that, let's just kind of keep up with the theme of the upsets because that was the craziest thing that happened. And let's just kind of talk about, like, let's go into Tennessee and we'll talk about a couple more. And then we'll do Team of the Week, Dog of the Week, and Disappointment of the Week right after that before we go into Week 7 preview. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Yep.
Sounds good.
So let's kind of just dive in. So like I said in the intro, 7 top 25 teams, all upset. 4 of them were in the top 10. You got Bama, you got Tennessee, you got Missouri, you got Michigan. You can start with any. We already talked about Bama, but what do you guys think about Tennessee and that game
I
that they
think
put out?
more so, other than Tennessee, I've been high on Arkansas and Taylor Green all year.
Yeah.
I mean, these guys have been tried, tested. It was a home game for them, I believe. I mean, Tennessee did go into Oklahoma, but I mean, I would say these Arkansas fans, as far as, kind of hype around their team, this is a tough place to play, especially with Taylor Green and I think it's Sampson is their running back, and that dude can ball. So the freshman quarterback, I expected there to be a hiccup somewhere along the line. Didn't see it coming from Tennessee versus Arkansas. I expected it more so, Tennessee versus the Alabama or the Georgia that they got to play, somewhere like that. So
Yeah. Kind of like the warning signs we talked about with Bama's defense earlier this year. Like, y'all think back real quick to the Tennessee-Oklahoma game. Maybe some of the signs that we saw on Tennessee's offense. And it catches up to them now where the production was not there. So, like, now it comes back to, is Oklahoma and Arkansas what Tennessee's offense truly is against SEC competition? Because they were running all over the small teams like Ole Miss. But when they face some of the bigger boys, you see what happens.
I mean, yeah, if you look at Tennessee's schedule, like leading up to this moment, Chattanooga, you got NC State, who you've already heard me talk about NC State. That is not a good program.
Nope.
Kent State, they beat 71-0. So it's like they're doing what they're supposed to do, and then they get Oklahoma, which is think their
Oklahoma's bad.
first true test. Oklahoma is like their first true test in my mind, and it's a 10-point win. That's on the road, or was it on the road or was it neutral site?
It
It was at
at
Oklahoma, and
Okay, yeah.
Oklahoma rolled out Jackson Arnold, who they benched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like you kind of, I guess you look at that and you're like, okay, well that was, a test for them and they passed that test. But to me, it's like that was a pretty competitive game and Oklahoma didn't have everything going for them.
Was Josh
Then they
Heupel's
go into Arkansas and well, now it's like, teams like this and then Missouri's the other one where it's like they have this kind of like cupcake schedule when they first start and then all of a sudden it's like it doesn't give a true indicator of where these teams are at in terms of, are they ready for SEC play? That's why I like teams like Kentucky that they establish it early. It's like we're going to play a tough schedule. We're going to be ready for when we play these big boys, and we might not win, but we're going to play a competitive game. I don't like these SEC teams not preparing themselves for SEC play. And I know there's only one way to truly prepare for SEC play, but you can go non-conference Power 5, and it's going to still mean something.
Yeah.
Like,
And
you
Right.
can, like with what Clemson, you play Georgia week 1. Like, you're prepped, and Clemson has looked like the best team in the ACC since week 1. But they had to go through that gauntlet before they got to that point.
Yeah, even with Bama and Georgia's one loss, I think they set each other up for success going forward. Like they got the hardest game out of the way. You could say Georgia Texas is a little bit harder, but we're a robbery, right? So there's everything at stake there. I think there needs to be more games like that earlier in the season.
I think with the Tennessee game, it's maybe they don't trust him to do it, but Nico did not push the ball downfield. Like,
It's like they played not to lose.
yeah, I get he's young, but he's got a cannon. Like, maybe it's because they don't trust him to throw down the field, but that's why Arkansas was able to shut them down. Like, eventually, like, you have to throw the ball down the field to make them respect it, because
Even if you don't convert.
yeah, even if you don't convert, like they have to be able to be like, okay, it's a threat to like for it to happen at least.
Yeah.
Like you can't just allow the safeties to play so downhill that you can't run the ball, you can't play
They're going to
screens,
stack.
nothing.
They're going to stack the box, and then safeties are going to play low, and it's like, because they're not going to respect anything over the top,
So
and then makes you one-dimensional.
Tennessee's leading receiver had one reception for 42 yards.
Yeah.
So let me
Not gonna win
just
that way.
give you guys a quick update on how the SEC conference standings are right now, because it's chaos. And all these teams that have losses, obviously, this is only SEC, so they've lost to an SEC team. There are 9 teams that have one loss in the SEC right now. There's 3 that are undefeated in SEC play. The one team, like I said, that can be frisky, who's 3-0 in the SEC right now, is Texas A&M. The team behind them is Texas, who only has one SEC game they've played so far, and I believe that was against Mississippi State. So I think there's literally 14 teams in the mix right now that could either ruin some seasons, they could become frisky down the stretch late, and the only teams I see that are dead in the SEC as far as right now are Mississippi State and the Auburn Tigers. So everybody else, all 14 other teams, they still got to either obviously play each other, they can still have an upset loss against one of these guys like a Kentucky or a South Carolina. So we could very easily see some madness down the stretch for SEC. I see a lot of upsets still to come.
Is Arkansas is a 2-loss team, right?
They're 4-2.
Arkansas is 4-2.
Only
Yet
one loss to
they
SEC,
are
though.
2-1 in the SEC.
But in their 2
they're,
losses bad?
No, it's
I
Oklahoma
thought one of
State.
them was.
Oklahoma.
Oh,
It looked
that's a
good
bad
at the
loss.
time. It looked good at the time.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
Oklahoma State was ranked
State-
like 16th when they beat
Yep.
Arkansas, so it didn't look like a bad
And-
loss at the time.
and then a 4-point loss to Texas A&M.
Very competitive,
Yeah.
and I'm pretty high on Texas A&M at this point. So I think I think Arkansas plays LSU, right? So after their bye, I think they got a bye and then they play LSU.
Yep, 2 weeks.
And so I think if they win that game, you're looking at that's a top 25 team in my opinion. A 2-loss
Yeah.
top 25 team, but a top 25 team nonetheless.
How did
And
And
not
then
to
they get to play
mention, like-
Mississippi State after that.
Yeah, and not to mention Mississippi State has to play LSU this week.
Dude, how did Alabama avoid Arkansas, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M this year?
Dude, this is kind of to my point why this Vanderbilt loss is just almost like feels
No,
catastrophic
dude.
because their schedule is so easy in the SEC for the most part, other than the at Tennessee and at LSU,
Yeah.
that it's like you could have walked into the SEC championship if you just handled what you're supposed to handle.
Also,
Now it's a
Yeah.
dogfight, boys.
Like the SEC gift wrapped Alabama this
Hey,
SEC championship
Florida is still in the
appearance.
mix.
no, we're not.
They
Low key,
Technically,
low key.
they
They're
are still in the mix.
mix.
No,
Look,
we're
they
not.
have
They're 1-1.
looked so much better the last 3 weeks.
Billy
I mean,
Napier's off the
so
hot
much
seat.
better.
Why do you think we played pretty bad teams?
UCF is
Hey.
not a bad team.
KJ Jefferson
Mississippi
is
State is.
26 years old and sucks at football.
Hey, leading up to that game though, they had one of the better offenses in the Big 12. Just
What
saying.
are you saying next week if we sit back down and Florida wins at Tennessee this
Oh,
week?
stop.
That'd be crazy. But let me just tell you a story right here, real quick, of
Okay.
why we won this game and why KJ Jefferson lost UCF this game. Okay, so their receiver runs a seam. It's cover 3, perfect for seams, right?
Yep.
Right.
So there's a middle high safety and a safety on the left side. KJ Jefferson literally made it look like our left safety was running the route. It was so thrown to the left that I could make that throw. It's a seam. All you have to do is just put it out there and don't literally put it too far to the right or too far to the left. If you throw it long, it's an incomplete pass.
Is UCF dead?
Yes.
Bad loss to Colorado. Bad
I'm
loss
gonna
to
get to them on the
Florida.
pick later.
They're bad. They're bad.
All right.
Cooked.
We're over the hour mark. Let's go into that'll kind of act as baked beans. So let's go into team of the week, dog of the week, disappointment of the week, because we still have a week 7 preview to do. All right.
Let's do it.
Got it.
All right. Team of the week, Nate. We'll go Nate, Will, myself, Brandon, and then we'll go back around.
Okay.
So team of the week, Nate.
Vanderbilt.
I mean, yeah, it probably just should be the answer.
Hey,
Mhm.
I just want you to know that's 2 of Bama's last 3 losses where goalposts were dumped in a river.
They have that effect on people.
Or
Is
sorry,
that the same river?
No,
Is that the same
so
river?
I was in Knoxville and they dumped it in the Tennessee. Knoxville's was dumped in the Tennessee River.
Like, what if you're just going on like a really long kayak ride down
So-
the river and you see 2 different goalposts
Did
in
you
the
did
same
you watch
ride?
the video? There was actually helicopters flying above with like a camera. So like as soon as the goalpost was dumped and people left, they went on there and fished out. Now they're selling it for donations. Like they're selling it for.
That's kind of awesome.
Didn't they
I might buy a
Didn't
part
they
of it.
fine Vanderbilt's program? They fined Vanderbilt.
Oh, they
like,
had
a
to
certain
pay
amount of
Bama
money.
like $200K
I'm pretty sure.
for
Yeah.
for rushing the field, which I did not know. If you rushed the field, you pay the other team. I did not know that's how it worked.
I don't think the fans knew that either.
So,
I don't think they care.
Either way, probably not.
but yeah, it's
Because
been
guess
rough
how
for
many
a couple
people
years.
are pulling up to Vanderbilt to watch their next game?
A
Oh, they're
lot.
gonna be sold
Full
out.
house.
Yeah. The place is stacked. Will, what do you have? Team
I
of the
got
week.
Indiana. I'm giving some credit to a 6-0 team, bowl eligible already. Kurt Signetti has them boys playing. The Hoosiers. 6-0 in the first year with their new head coach. I got to give it to them. Even though 41-24 over Northwestern. That's a solid defense at least as well that they scored 41 on.
All right, so I'm going to go. I've got an honorable mention. Syracuse with the overtime win over UNLV. I thought that was a very impressive victory for them. I wanted to make sure I mentioned them before I went to. I think the other one's a little bit more deserved, but shout out to Syracuse. That's a very impressive win. I watched that game. Kyle McCord is going to be a great quarterback for a little bit of time, I think. I think he's going to be a really good quarterback. But my team of the week is going to be SMU. I've been pretty high on these guys at the beginning of the year. I was super high on these guys. I thought they had a really good receiver room, really good running backs, and 2 really good quarterbacks that they just couldn't decide who the starter was going to be. Well, they figured out who the starter is, and that team, ever since that day, they had one bad game against BYU, who we found is actually a pretty good team, so it's not that bad of a loss. But they have scored, I mean, it was like 44 points, 66 points, 38. They score. There's not a lot of people that can keep up with them and what they do offensively. Took down a top 25 team in Louisville, who I think is a top 25 team, but definitely on the lower end of that. Really impressive win from them. So big shout out to SMU and that victory over Louisville.
Yeah, I'm going to go Texas A&M. Touched on it a bit earlier, but 41-10 against the number 9 Missouri. They handled business over, against an overrated team. Small stat here, Texas A&M is 9th in the country in rushing yards per game, 232. So your boy Le'Veon Bell / Moss, he's legit. He's the real deal.
Le'Veon Bell Moss. Let's go to Dog of the Week. Brandon, we'll just stick with you. Who you got Dog of the Week?
I think this should be a common for this podcast every single week until he proves us wrong.
Yeah.
Another Ashton Jeanty masterclass performance. Let me see.
I think he only had like 11 carries this time.
Yeah, down
13.
game for him.
Oh, yeah,
Game for him. 13 carries, had 186 yards and 3 touchdowns. So
His
he
first run of the
14.3.
game, y'all, was
Yeah.
like
Yep.
63-yard tutty.
Have y'all seen how he lines up?
Also
in the
had a
backfield?
75-yard.
Hey, just stand straight up.
He just stands
Menacing,
straight
man.
up, arms hanging down.
Yeah.
I will say he is already at 1,000 yards in 6 games, and this past game and another game as well, he only played the first half, so he's basically at 1,000 yards in 5
So I
games.
saw this thing the other day.
They've only played 5 games.
Oh,
I saw this the other day. He's
Oh
already
my god.
so Bama's had 2 running backs win the Heisman, Derrick Henry, Mark Ingram. He's already just blown their stats out of the water through 5 games.
Yeah,
He's on pace to have a 2,000-yard season.
Oh, it's going to be one of the best,
With-
barring injury or anything like that, one of the best years for a running back in the history of college football, if not the best year.
Not to mention 2,000 yards. He's on pace to have 40 touchdowns at the end of the year.
So dumb. All right, well, it's going to pale in comparison, but going with the same vein as SMU, I'm going to give a shout-out to Kevin Jennings. He is the quarterback for SMU and has not been talked about enough. I think this was kind of his coming-out party, this game here. 21 of 27, 281 yards, and then 10 carries for 113 more yards, responsible for 400 yards of their offense. Real surprise! I was surprised at how good of a thrower he is. Like he's actually, obviously he's a gifted runner. He's really good at creating, but he's really good in the pocket as well. Like he is actually like a complete quarterback, and I was kind of sleeping on him, but no longer. Kevin Jennings is the truth.
My Dog of the Week, Eli Stovers. He's tight end for Vanderbilt and is still learning the tight end position. That's why I got him going for 6 for 113 on I think the Alabama defense is still pretty good. But yeah, while still learning how to play tight end, going 6 for 113 on Alabama, yeah, you get my Dog of the Week.
Yep. Nate?
Will, thank you for that little compliment. But my Dog of the Week is Diego Pavia. I just want y'all to know, if I could have them in there, did y'all see his brothers in the stands? Those are
Yes.
guys I want to go out and have some drinks with.
Oh, they had a lot of drinks that night.
Guaranteed.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, he's just going back-to-back years with big upsets, like against SEC squads. I don't know what else to say about him. He's just that guy. I mean, he might go out and lose every game the rest of the year, but somehow he pulls off the big ones.
No, he's America's Dog of the Week this time.
Yeah, which
He just likes the big ones.
Yeah, he shows up for those. Let's go disappointment of the week. Nate, we'll stick with you, and we'll go Will, myself, and then Brandon.
I was gonna say, should we all 4 just say it at the same time? Got to go with my boys from Tuscaloosa, man. I ain't got nothing else to say about it. We've talked too much about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
The
Alabama.
answer is Alabama, but
Yes.
mine is Missouri, because if I was here to say it last week, I had in my notes Missouri is the better team than Texas A&M. The only reason they're
You did say that. I read it.
is because of Kyle Field. Yeah, That was pretty bad. Missouri is not a better team than Texas A&M. I'll say that now. Yeah, they're my disappointment because they made me look like a fool.
You can't win them all. You're not. No one's gonna bat 1,000. All right, mine. I'm going. It is Alabama. But I'm gonna go Boston College. Because I'm furious with this squad here. I am. Will, do you remember the beginning of the baseball MLB season when I said I'm gonna pick the Marlins to win every day until they do?
Yes.
You remember that? Okay, well and that went horribly for me, right? They started off like 0 and 11, okay? I'm going to do the same thing with Virginia. I'm going to pick Virginia to lose every single week until they finally do because I refuse to believe in this program. And for that reason, Boston College is my disappointment of the week because they should have beat Virginia and they were beating Virginia until it was time to win the game. So that is mine. Brandon, over to you.
Yeah, it's the answer is Alabama, but I'm gonna say Tennessee for a team that is second in the SEC, averaging 519 yards a game, as well as being the best defensive team in the SEC, only allowing 227 yards a game to come out and only score 14 points against Arkansas, who isn't bad, but you got to win that game, especially when, at the time you were, top 5 in the country, so can't have that. And also, I just want to say really, really fast that I think Ashton Genty almost has more rushing yards. Let me check real quick. He has 300 less rushing yards than the Oklahoma Sooners do as a team in 5 games. Sorry, I just saw that and wanted to throw that in there because that's
a crazy
like
one.
Insane.
That's wild. All right, I'm going to give a brief shout out. This is going to be honorable mention, team of the week / disappointment of the week because we didn't talk about this game and I think it needs to be stated. Miami is team of the week / disappointment of the week. You get some grace. It's tough to go coast to coast like that, so I kind of get it. They played one of the worst first halves of football I've watched from a top 10 team, and then I went to bed. And then I woke up and found out they played the best second half of football that's ever been played and ended up winning that game 39-38, 25-point comeback. So we didn't talk about that game at all, but that's insanity. So I feel like we at least needed to mention that and give a little shout out / come on guys, figure it out to Miami before we moved on.
Brandon.
Well, disappointment of the week might have to also go to Cal.
Yeah. They weren't supposed to win. They
realized,
were
up so
they realized
big.
what they were doing. They said, "Oh, well, hold on, we better make an adjustment."
We could have easily added Miami to this upset list.
Easily.
They just didn't sell.
Easily. Yeah. I told you California's not a good team, though. They have a good defense, but they're not a good football team.
Brandon, was that you? Then go ahead, Will. Sorry.
I got some PTSD with 25-point comebacks. Shout out.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, dude.
28-3. But Cam Ward is him, but tries to be him too much is what I wrote. Because that one play where he threw the ball 40 yards across his body for a pick six.
Yeah,
he can't.
Not
be
ideal.
Doing that.
He makes some decisions.
It's if anyone can do it, it's him. But the thing is, no one can do it.
No, that play was impossible. It was broken. That ball goes out of bounds. That ball goes out of bounds, and you just chalk that one.
And I literally had something else to say. I can't even remember what it is now because that play just pisses me off so much. But
all right,
real quick, Brandon, was that you when we won that first game when we went to lunch on Sunday? Where you were like, "Yeah, dude, can't believe Miami lost that game," and I was like. Or
they didn't.
They won. Was that you?
Yeah, might have been me.
You were like, man, when I went to bed, it was 35-10. I'm like, well, no.
It's 35-10. I went to sleep. I said, this thing's over. It was
it's
just
cooked.
getting started.
Which Brandon didn't realize they lost or won until lunchtime on Sunday.
But those games shouldn't be at 10:30 at night or 11 p.m. What do you want me to do?
Why are we starting at 8 o'clock
Quick
game on the
shout
One
out.
of our
West
games
Coast?
of the week was at 11 p.m. on a Saturday.
Quick shout out to their equipment driver.
Facts.
I think they said that that truck drove what? How far was it?
It's 2,000 plus
2,000.
miles.
It's
yeah.
wild. All right. We got to go. So let's move on. Let's do week 7 preview. Let's just get right to it. 3 games of the week as per usual. Brandon, go ahead and introduce those for us, and then we're going to go through and do our picks for them.
We got the Red River Classic taking place in Dallas, Texas at 3:30. Texas versus Oklahoma should be a shootout, always is. Neutral site game. Like I said, it's in Dallas, Texas, but Oklahoma is the home team. So that'll be a fun one. I got, just going to go ahead and tell you guys I got Texas by 1,000,000. Moving on, we got Ole Miss, another SEC banger. Ole Miss versus LSU at 7:30. This game is at LSU. It's going to be a whole lot of offense in this game for sure. So we should see another shootout. And then probably the biggest game of the week by far, the lot riding on this game, Ohio State at Oregon. So another long plane ride, long bus ride, long truck driver ride for the boys at Ohio State. We'll see how they shake down all the way on the West Coast against Oregon. That game's at 7:30 as well. So I hope you guys got 2 screens because we're going to have to be watching Ole Miss and LSU and Ohio State at Oregon same time.
Yeah, I love the slate this week. I'm excited. Last week I slept on last week, and of course it was like the upset week of the freaking season. And I'm like,
right.
I'm talking in the show last week about like, oh, it's gonna be a downer after all these awesome games, and then it ended up being like one of the best ones. But I'm legit stoked about this set of games here over the weekend. Let's start with Texas at Oklahoma. I don't remember who I was going to kick this to in rehearsals, so I'm going to count on one of you guys to remember, and I'm going to kick it over to whoever wants to talk first. So Texas at Oklahoma, what do you guys got?
I mean, being the SEC guru over here, like I said, I don't think this Oklahoma team is very good. I do think their quarterback now, after they bench Jackson Arnold, does give them a little bit more of an explosive offense factor. But, I mean, we saw this Texas team is already tried and tested. I mean, they went to Michigan, beat the snot out of them. It's going to be basically a home game for them since it's in Dallas. Rumors are that Ewers might be back this week, so we'll see how that goes. And the guy Oklahoma has, if I can find his name sometime quickly.
Quarterback?
Yeah, the new guy. Yeah. I want to say he's a freshman, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, so this doesn't pan out well for Oklahoma. And then if I go to the stats, Oklahoma has the worst SEC offense by any team. Even, Mississippi State, Florida, bad offensive teams like Kentucky are still way ahead of the Oklahoma Sooners. And we're looking at a Texas team that averages 513 yards per game. Then we flip it to the defensive side of the ball, where not only is Texas number 2 with only a yard behind number 1 Tennessee, allowing 228, we got to scroll all the way down to, I think, the 6th worst team, right above Alabama, though. Shout out. But yeah, this doesn't bode well for Oklahoma.
All right, I'm gonna go. Okay, and y'all might not like what I have to say here. Okay, I also heard yours is back, which is great. We'll see. This is not the game you want to come back and play after a 3-week period where you're not playing football. Okay? So if I'm Quinn Ewers, I wanted to come back like last week. I wanted to come back against something a little milder. I did not want to come back against a top 25 team at a neutral site. It's going to take them 2 quarters. And in that 2 quarters, that is enough time for Oklahoma to make this a game. Oklahoma does not win this game. Okay? But 2 touchdowns is a lot for a top 25 team to lose by. Okay? And this is also a look-ahead game for Texas, because who do they have next week?
Georgia.
This is a look-ahead game. This is a classic look-ahead game. I have Oklahoma covering plus 14.5 for minus 120.
Yeah.
Y'all are smiling at
No,
me.
no,
All
no.
right.
No, I actually,
I am.
I really love that pick. It is a little tougher with Oklahoma's offense, but I will say Quinn Ewers was awful in this game last year. Oklahoma made him look very bad. So I'm also going to take Oklahoma to cover in this game. Because
Let's go.
14 is a lot. And I'll be honest, and this could just be a hot take here. I think it would be a mistake not to start Arch in this game.
I 100% agree. Nate, me and you don't always see eye to eye, but we are 150% on the same page
And
with
this
this
is
one.
just like, and listen, guys, you're at a point in the season where who's your future quarterback?
Oh, it's not Quinn Ewers.
That's what I'm saying. Like, he's been hurt. He hadn't played for 3 weeks. You got to give it to the guy that you trust right now.
The hot hand.
Yeah.
You go with the hot hand.
Now, Oklahoma's going to have to play freaking good defense unless their offense can get rolling. But I like Oklahoma to cover in this, especially because it's neutral. And this game's always close. Always close.
Will Giles.
What's crazy is I thought I was going against the grain here. I have Oklahoma plus 14.5 as well.
Yes.
I literally was
And
like,
that leaves
I
one.
literally was going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be 1 against 3 here. Now, I don't agree with Nate. I think starting Quinn is the correct decision because Quinn Ewers can be the best quarterback in football.
I think he, but I don't know if he is this week.
That's legit my reason. I was like, okay, it's going to take some rust. He's gonna knock the rust off, and that's why they're going to cover. I literally have 30-17 Texas. The little stat here for you. Texas is 1-5 against the spread in their last 6 games in October. What month are we in? October.
We're in October.
And don't look now, but Oklahoma's just straight up 5-1 in the last 6 games of Red River. Like, they just have Texas's number, and it's something about them. Yeah, Texas plus 14.5.
And also, Brandon Taylor is 0-6 in his last 6 SEC plays.
But games of the week. Games of the week.
That's true. You were 2-1. You were 2-1.
I just want to go ahead and say I'm taking Texas minus 14. 1, because there's push potential at 14. There's no hook. 2, you remember how earlier in the podcast I was talking about, those really good Saban, Alabama defenses, how they averaged, 14, 16 points allowed per game? Well, the Texas Longhorns this year are averaging 7 points allowed per game. 1 touchdown per game. And if you think the boys are not going to show up for this one because this one matters now that it's an SEC game as well, a conference game, I think you're crazy. And not to mention, we got Quinn Ewers, veteran guy. He's going to come into this game. He's going to be his normal self. It's not like their offense is, not like he's not been in that offense before, like he doesn't know what's going on. And really, I think you wouldn't want Quinn Ewers in your offense right now, or not Quinn Ewers, Arch Manning in your offense because he's a freshman. He's never been in this situation before, a Red River Classic. Now, on the flip side, we do have a guy that's only had 1 start in his college football career, and it was against a trash Auburn team where they only won by 6 points. So I'm not really seeing the knowledge behind this because it is going to be, like you said earlier, probably going to be more so of a home game, seeing that it's in Dallas for the Texas Longhorns. And not to mention, Texas's offensive points per game is 45.
No knowledge, just vibes.
Yeah.
Listen, guys,
So-
these past 2 weeks of football shows us that that's out the window when it comes to these
Anyone can
games.
lose at any time.
Oklahoma money line. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, God.
No.
Dude, listen, I'll tell you now, I do not think they're going to win. I would not call you insane, though, if you picked Oklahoma to win this game.
Because
Just because
who
of
do
the
you
past.
Call
think?
you insane.
Let me put it to you this way: who do you think has a better defense, Oklahoma or Michigan?
At this point,
It's Michigan is
Yeah,
the answer.
It's
I mean,
The
Michigan,
answer's
right?
Michigan.
And we saw what Texas did to them at Michigan.
Yes, but I also think
This game's
Oklahoma's
different.
offense is better than Michigan's, and literally Texas scored
Yeah,
30,
but
31.
Texas probably has the best defense in the
Yes,
country.
Texas scored 31 on Michigan. Okay, they might score what? This if they score the same amount on Oklahoma this time as well. But I think Oklahoma can score 17, 21.
You can at least
It's a
score,
cover.
yeah.
I don't
least.
see Oklahoma scoring more than 10 points in this football game.
That's egregious. There's no way. If you were gonna go
We're looking at an
44
Oklahoma
to
team.
17, 44 to 20, I'd be like, okay, yeah. But for them to not score 10, like that's
We're looking at an Oklahoma football team that couldn't score more than 15 against Tennessee, couldn't score more than 16 against Houston, and their only other
with
wins that
Jackson
they scored a lot are against Temple, Tulane, which they only won by like 13 points, and then Auburn, which they won by 6 points.
You're looking too deep into this. Will, how many out of the last 6 did you say Oklahoma's won?
5.
5? Yeah, we can't look too deep
And
into
who were their quarterbacks? Who were their quarterbacks when they won?
I mean, Dylan Gabriel,
Yep, GOAT.
he doesn't look good with Oregon, but
So let's just throw this to a different rivalry. Alabama-Auburn. The best Alabama teams has been beaten by mediocre Auburn teams. Vice
That's valid.
versa. Like,
That's valid.
this is a game where you throw everything from the past 4 weeks out the window. Like,
I mean, we even
look
at
what
last
happened
year.
last year.
Texas was significantly better than Oklahoma last year, and Oklahoma won.
See, you guys are saying you're high on Oklahoma's offense, right?
No, I think this is
yeah,
no.
high on it.
I'm not saying
Like,
Oklahoma's
you guys are
offense is
saying
elite. I'm saying
they're gonna have to have. You guys just said that Texas is gonna score, but you think that Oklahoma can keep up and keep it within range, right?
If
Let me just
Texas
pull some
scores
stats
30,
for you.
they only need 17. That's
taking
not
them
a
to
good
cover.
offensive day.
Well, let me tell you some offensive numbers. Passing yards for Oklahoma, they are 118th in the country at 169 yards a game. Now, okay, you say, okay, they might be good at rushing then. No, they're 100th in the country in rushing at only 128 yards a game.
We're
we're
Michael
saying
Hawkins
this
believers.
game. Yeah, we're saying this game is just different. Not that Oklahoma's a better team. Like, the Red
Yeah.
River rivalry is just different.
I threw almost my whole paragraph, there's not a single stat in this paragraph about either of these two teams. There's no stats. This is not a thing where you put stats out there. It's these guys played historically. This is a good game, regardless of the comp level. This is just historically a good game. And a good game would mean it's less than 2 touchdowns. Or it's 2
But
touchdowns.
we've had historically good games the last 6 years from Heisman level quarterbacks. We're looking at a quarterback for Oklahoma that's making his second career start against the number 1 team in the country.
So you think this is
In
gonna be, you
Dallas,
think this is gonna be a
in
blowout?
Texas. Yes.
Okay.
I'm just betting on some.
I think
rust.
this game ends up being somewhere like 35-10 Texas.
I
Do you think Oklahoma beats
can't
Michigan?
wait.
Maybe.
I mean, Michigan only lost by 18 to Texas, which is a lot.
That's what I'm saying.
That's more than
we're just
that's
taking-
more than 14 and a half.
But do you think they're better than
Oklahoma's a
Michigan?
little bit better, so we give it 14.5. So they just need to lose by
Yeah,
14.
we're not saying they're gonna win.
Yeah, no one said
I
they're
mean,
going to win
if
this
they
game.
win, they win. Whatever. Good job.
I
But
don't
we're
think it's
taking them to
close. I know how betting works. I don't think it's close.
cover. All right, y'all ready to move on?
All right, let's go. Let's go to game number 2, Ole Miss at LSU. Again, I don't remember in rehearsals what I said. I'm going to pick Brandon.
Well, just an overview of this game. Like I said before, we're going to have a lot of offense, I assume, here. I don't know. Will, do you have the lines?
Yeah, it's Ole Miss favored by 3.5 right now.
Yes.
I figured it would be close. Do you have the over-under? Because is it going to be like
I think it
56
was like
plus?
60 something.
Yeah, I figure it to be a lot of offense. I honestly see Ole Miss. I wouldn't mind. You said they were -3.
3.5.
3.5.
I wouldn't mind buying it down to 3 flat because I think they are the more talented team. I'm not a believer in Nussmeier just yet. I mean, he should have had that loss against South Carolina. I mean, defensive-wise, LSU is still really, really bad. I mean, you're going up against one of the best offensive teams in the entire country. It is at LSU, but I think, like Lane Kiffin mentioned earlier, they weren't prepared for Kentucky. I think they're prepared now. I think they've been through the mix a little bit with two, I wouldn't say great teams, but Kentucky and South Carolina back to back. That's two pretty tough battles you got to face. So I think with them, almost like Alabama now, where it's been proven that Ole Miss they are beatable. I think that wakes some guys up, wakes the team up. I like 3. I like Ole Miss -3.
So on the flip, I agree with you there. And on the flip side, you look at LSU's schedule over the last 3 weeks. They played UCLA, they played South Alabama, and they had a bye. Okay, so that's 3 straight weeks where you're not tested. So let's just assume that the game might end up being close at the end, but with how Ole Miss responded, after Kentucky and then what they did with South Carolina, I would assume that momentum continues, and I think if nothing else, it takes LSU a half to get their bearings and turn it into a football game. I think by the end of the game it can be close, but I actually I went a little creative here. I'm going to have Ole Miss first half money line at -145. So I'm just going to have a fast start from Ole Miss, thinking LSU hasn't played anyone in 3 weeks, coming off a bye. Like, yeah, there's rest advantage, but they have not. If they had played Texas A&M the week before the bye, I'd be like, okay, yeah, like they're ready to go for this game. But they didn't. They haven't played anyone since mid-September. Actually, it was early September. So Ole Miss first half money line.
I think what's shocking is usually with Lane Kiffin teams, it's the offense that wins them games. This year it's been Ole Miss's defense. They've been actually pretty good. I think Dart's going to pick apart LSU secondary. I got Ole Miss -3.5. I think it's a low number. I got Ole Miss winning by 10, 38-28.
Love it.
I think even if you bought it up for plus money, to 5 or 6 or something like that, to get it to, they can win by a touchdown, and even if it goes to overtime, they can win 37-30. They just stop them from scoring or something like that. But yeah, I got Ole Miss 3.5. I really like this one.
Nate.
Yeah, so this one's tough for me, but I'm gonna look at it and like this: it's a not game. It's in Death Valley. Lane Kiffin's gonna have a couple games a year where they go out there and just lay an egg, right? Like, it's unexpected. LSU's had a past few weeks pretty easy. I think they have a chance to pull this off, and especially at plus money in Death Valley, man. It's hard not to go that direction. Ole Miss is about to have I think it's a bigger test in Kentucky, honestly, just because of where the game's being played. So we're going to see if they're ready or not, but I'm going to take LSU.
I love it.
Okay.
We got just a little bit of everything in this one. All right, we can spend a decent amount of time on Game 3. We'll just have to cruise through Toilet Bowl and the individuals. But Game 3, this is like the game of the week, so let's just have a normal conversation about it. We got Ohio State at Oregon. Will, let's start with you.
So we kind of got a tale of two offenses here. Oregon is more of the slow, grinded out, get down the field kind of score, and then Ohio State can rip off a 75-yard touchdown at any moment. The one thing that I think is Ashton Jeanty, he's obviously the best running back in the country. Quinshon Judkins isn't far behind. Jeanty ripped apart this Oregon defense. He had a ton of yards. So I think Judkins can actually kind of rip them apart as well. And the one thing that that helps me with this game is Oregon played Michigan State last week, and Ohio State played Michigan State the week before. So kind of sees a little gauge in what they do as well. Michigan State's one of the worst red zone teams in the country, but both of them allow them to get to the red zone a lot of times. Both these teams are pretty good in the red zone as an offense. So what I think is a lot of points. Both teams are good defensively, but as we've seen in college football, offense always wins. It's just always no matter how good your defense, unless you're 2021 Georgia, the offense is going to win. So right now I got over 53 is my play for Oregon Ohio
Good.
State.
So I have a lot of similar notes, so I think I'll go next. Both teams can score. I have that. Both teams are equipped to score the ball. Both teams up to this point have had solid defenses. The one kind of disparity I saw is Oregon has faced a good offense in Boise State, and they gave up like 34 to Boise State. Ohio State, I don't know if they've faced a really good offense yet. So what I see there is like that's a variable that I can't account for. I don't know how good Ohio State's defense is. But what I do know is Ohio State is going to be able to score based off of historical data with Oregon and what Boise State was able to do. I think Ohio State can be just as explosive, if not more so. They probably are more so. So I have Ohio State over 27.5 points at minus 120. So I'm going to go with that. I can't account for what Oregon's going to do. It's either going to be a blowout or a shootout. It's going to be one of the two, but Ohio State's going to score.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable picking a winner in this game, kind of like y'all. It's a toss-up, so I'm actually going to go in the direction with Will, and I'm taking the over. Like he said, good offenses can score on good defenses, so as simple as that. It's a Big Ten game, two really high-powered offenses. I think it could potentially start off slow, but at the end of the night, I think it's going to be a high-scoring game.
All right, boys. I'm doing a deep dive right now.
Okay? I'm ready for it. I'm here for it.
All right. Will, what was your stat earlier about, what was it, Big Ten teams traveling?
Big Ten teams are 1-7 when they have to travel 2 or more time zones this year.
All right. Well, here's a stat for you. Ohio State University is 1,932 miles away from Oregon.
Yeah, it
This
is.
game is at Oregon. This game is at, what, 7:30? So, technically, I think if my time zones are right, that would be a 9:30 start time for the Ohio State boys. Prime time, 7:30 at Oregon. I think I'm going to ride Oregon money line here. Taking the home team. It's a long, long trip for Ohio State, which they haven't had to travel very much at all to start the season, right?
No.
I think they've played Akron at home, Western Michigan at home, Marshall at home. They traveled right up the road to Michigan State, and then they played Iowa at home. And then we're going to throw them into their first, long-distance road trip to Oregon, number 3 Oregon, who is definitely going to come out hungry and want to send Ohio State packing as the number 2 team in the country. And we get it at plus money at 135. I think I'm just going to take the value and go Oregon money line.
I love
Get
it.
the number 3 team in the nation at plus money at home. Yeah.
I mean, if I lose, it's like, well, so what? Shake it off.
As SEC fans, how awesome would it be to see Ohio State just get that first loss in their schedule this year?
Great.
Yeah, I love when they lose.
Right. I'm a huge Ohio State and Michigan hater.
Oh, for sure.
I hate them.
For sure. I hate watching that game.
I think
Me too.
Ohio State wins, but I cannot deny the value, and it's why I also played that as well. Oregon can
Nice.
easily win this game, but for pick's sake for this podcast, I went over 53 because I'm more confident.
It's a
in
safe
that.
play, yeah.
And so what if I lose Oregon? Because when Texas covers minus 14, it's just going to balance out anyway. So
100%. All right. Let's go to the toilet bowl. Will? Introduce the toilet bowl.
Pretty tough slate here. New Mexico versus Air Force. Two pretty bad teams.
Mountain West juggernauts.
Air Force is scoring 11.4 points per game. Mexico is scoring 32. New Mexico is coming off an in-state win against New Mexico State, so riding high.
Congratulations.
shout out,
Uh, Um,
Pavio.
Air Force is not covered all year. Air Force is not covered all year. Air Force is scoring 11.4 points per game. Mexico is scoring 32. New Mexico is coming off an in-state win against New Mexico State, so riding high.
Congratulations.
Air Force is not covered all year. That's my stat, and so I'm riding with it. New Mexico minus 6.5.
6.5.
Yeah.
Yep. So Air Force hasn't won since week 1 when they beat Merrimack. Nate, who is the Merrimack mascot?
It's a bird, ain't
There
it?
you go.
Is that a college?
Not a real football team.
It's a bird,
Okay.
ain't it?
Yeah, it's not a real football team. All right. So look, someone fact check me there.
I'm looking that up. Okay.
Don't know who the
Merrimack
They
Warrior.
are a real
Oh,
football
yeah.
team.
Mac the
Okay.
Warrior.
So they exist. That's fine.
He
That
looks
was their
just like Michigan State's mascot, except blue and yellow.
only win. Was Merrimack.
Merrimack has also only won one game against Bucknell.
Okay. A Bucknell. That's a basketball team. That's
Okay.
all right. So that's stat 1. They've also scored less than 10 points in 3 of their last 4 games. That's insane. New Mexico, like you said, coming off a big win, riding high. I've got a lot of momentum there. New Mexico's offense has also had some moments throughout the year. Like you can tell, they've actually scored points at an okay clip. I will also take them to win by minus 6.5. What do you boys got?
Give me New Mexico points. Their offense is actually not that bad.
I think I looked at points. It was just so high.
I thought it was like 27.5.
And I got 26-14.
Yeah.
Yeah, nah.
Just
I don't want to play with
just give me New Mexico to cover, and honestly, I might even consider getting it up to plus money. Maybe.
that. I don't mind that either.
Look, there's one thing that Air Force is good at, and that's training dudes to fly planes, not playing football.
That's correct.
Give me New Mexico minus 6.5.
All right, so we're all in lockstep on that one. So hopefully we all go 1-0 again on the toilet bowl. All right, we've got 10 minutes, y'all. We're going to go through individual plays in 10 minutes. I have a whole page. I'm going to have to cut some of this down, but we'll pull it off. Nate, we'll start with you. Your Big 12 individual plays preview for Week 7.
Yep. So getting back on the UCF game here I was telling you about earlier, this is actually my plus money play of the week. Cincinnati against UCF. Cincy's offense has not slowed down this year. UCF's has. The one thing that UCF had going for them this year was the offense. Defense has been bad, consistently bad. So give me Cincinnati plus 130 for the money line. I think that's actually really good value, and I'm surprised Cincinnati is not favored. Next game is Iowa State versus West Virginia. Iowa State is not a bad football team, boys. They
at all.
got a really good offense rolling. Their defense is pretty elite. Like I said earlier about West Virginia, I'm not sure what they did last week is who West Virginia really is. Give me Iowa State minus 3, which I thought that was pretty low, to be honest with you. It is a home game for West Virginia. That is a tougher place to play in the afternoon/night. So, but I'm still going to roll with Iowa State here. And then the last game is Kansas State versus Colorado. I tried to pick a winner in this game, and I could not do it. Both teams have shown that they can struggle defensively against solid offenses, so I'm going to take the over 56.5.
Good call.
Love those picks.
All right, Will. Yeah, actually, Nate, I love those. That sounds like a 3-0 to me. Will, go ahead.
Yeah. Lock of the week: Penn State versus USC over 50. I was shocked it was only at 50, to be honest. I thought it would be like 55 plus. Both teams are averaging over 31 points a game, so I feel like it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Kind of like last time these teams met, 2017 Rose Bowl with Saquon Barkley, 52-49. It's not going to be that high-scoring, but over 50, I feel like that's pretty doable. Then going over to Washington, I know we touched on them a little earlier. Washington money line versus Iowa, plus 115. I think they're a better team. It'll be low scoring. Iowa's offense sucks. Washington's offense is a little bit better, and both defenses are really good. I think it'll be like 24-17, 20-17, something like that. All I need is a Washington win. Then I'm riding with my boys all year. I've been doing it all year. Rutgers minus 2.5 versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin's 1-4 against the spread this year, and Wisconsin's run D is nowhere near Nebraska's was last week. So I think Kyle Monangai will be able to run all over Wisconsin. And also Wisconsin's offense is not as good as Nebraska's last week. And Rutgers actually had a really good game, only allowed them to 14 points. So I think Rutgers -2.5 is a pretty good bet because they arguably should have beat Nebraska last week, and Nebraska is significantly better than Wisconsin.
Yeah. Nice. Those are also good. All right, fellas. I have never been more confident in my model and the work that I have put in. I could have made all of these my plays, and I would have felt just as good about each and every one. I'm going to start with Cal at Pittsburgh. Okay, so on the flip side of Big Ten teams traveling, this goes for Cal in particular. They actually do really well when they travel to the East Coast for whatever reason. They beat Auburn. They had one other win against, I forgot who it was, but they did have one other win. They play pretty well when they go over to the East Coast. Going to Pitt, Pitt has to lose eventually. This is my favorite. This is not the best team in the ACC, but this is my favorite team in the ACC, okay? But they have to lose eventually. This is the best defense that they are going to face in Cal. Cal is the best defense that Pittsburgh is going to face. I have 3 plays for this game in particular. One is kind of like I have the Cal money line, but it's like a one one unit, like just kind of a hope and a dream. My lock for this game is Pitt under 31.5. I think their point total is pretty high, and I think Cal has only given up more than 31 points to one team, and that was the number 8 team in the country in Miami. And it took them, everything that they had in them to be able to pull that off. So Pitt under 31.5. It's at -115. That is my lock of the week. My plus money play, I have 4 plays on this Louisville game, and all of them have everything to do with Louisville absolutely decimating Virginia and everything they hold dear. Okay? Virginia is a fraudulent football program. I am Miami Marlinsing this until the day comes where they lose. I have Louisville, the money line for 6 units. Like, I'm putting like the house on Louisville to win this game. The value sucks, but I don't care. Everything Louisville. Louisville -7, Louisville -9 in the first half, and then my plus money play of the week is Louisville over 7.5 points in the first quarter. They're going to score 17 in the first quarter, so over 7.5 is nothing. That's a plus 130. That is my plus money play of the week. Louisville everything, all day, every day, because they're playing Virginia, who's terrible. Last one, number 3. Stanford at Notre Dame. I have, this one is, I love this play, but I can easily see it like going kind of sideways. I have under 45 points. I actually believe in Stanford's defense. I think the defense is actually pretty good. I think they're a horrible offensive team, and they're only going to score 7 points. But Notre Dame has shown that they'll take their foot off the gas if they have a big lead. And so 45, I can see this game being like 34-7, which would be 41, which 41 is more or less than 45, Nate.
It's less.
That's correct. So 41 is less.
Nice.
So even if it's like a blowout, the Stanford defense is good enough to keep them under in points while they're not going to score any points of their own. So under 45 is my play for this one, and that is at -110. Those are my 3.
I have Stanford plus 23 as well.
Yeah, I have so that's my other one is the plus. It was at like 23.5. I think I put it at like plus 24. I was like, just to play it safe. That's my second play on that game, but I'm not going to go with that one. I'm just going to do the under. Brandon, go ahead. SEC, and then we'll outro this thing.
All right, aside from our games of the week, first one we're going to start off with, Will, I'm riding on the Gators. We're going with Florida plus 15.5 against Tennessee. I think them coming off a bad loss, freshman quarterback. Hopefully Graham Mertz pulls up and he has a good game. I think 15.5 is a lot for a Florida team that might not be as bad as we thought. They could still be a little frisky. I think they hold this game within 2 touchdowns.
Will does
So
not believe.
fingers crossed there. Now, we'll go plus money play of the week. We're going to go UGA versus Mississippi State. We're going Mississippi State under 9.5 points in the entire game. So they can still score a touchdown, still kick a field goal. Well, nope, that won't happen, but still score a touchdown. And we hit that 9.5 number. I don't think they score a single touchdown. I think hopefully this game doesn't turn into the UGA Kentucky game where we see Mississippi State kick 4 field goals and end up hitting the over for their total.
Kick 3.
Yeah, let's keep it at 3, boys. Keep it at 3. And then, I could have very easily had my lock of the week been Texas minus 14. 14.5 didn't matter.
Well, then you would have
But
lost.
since that's the game of the week, we're going to go the boys from Vandy riding high after a big win against Alabama, covering 14.5 against Kentucky. Kentucky's offense, very, very bad. They do have a good defense, but Alabama had a good defense, and we saw how many points Kentucky scored against, or Vanderbilt scored against them. I think Pavia is that guy. I think he scrambles around for a lot of yards, and he keeps them in this game, especially within 2 touchdowns against a bad offensive Kentucky team. So I think that's our lock of the week instead of Texas minus a million.
That's good. That one has a better chance of hitting. So I like that for you. All right, I think that is going to do it, fellas. Brandon, do the thing where you tell the people who are listening what they should be doing.
Yeah, so big update. We now have this video that you guys are seeing is on YouTube now. So if you're on YouTube, it helps you out a little bit because we have the video. Play it, put it on the background. You can put it on your TV, whatever you want to do.
See our beautiful faces.
Make sure.
Yes.
Exactly. Make sure you ring the bell and all that good stuff on Spotify. Leave us a rating. And like I said before, make sure you're following the Instagram. And I think if you listen to us on Amazon Music, if you get Amazon Prime, you can listen ad-free because they put in ads. That's not us putting in ads, so don't think we want you guys to listen to those trash ads. But anyways, make sure you like, subscribe, ring the bell, do whatever you need to do. Leave us a comment on stuff that you might think is controversial, and let us know who your favorite team is. Let us know who you're rooting for.
Fantastic. All right, fellas, that is going to do it for today. I can't wait. So we'll see how it goes this weekend. I'll be watching as many monitors as possible. And then we will be back next week to find out how we did and talk about it. All right? Sound good?
Sounds good.
Horns up.
All right. We will see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.